Let's bring in retired Admiral James Stavridis, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander and co-author of the book 2054, and New York Times diplomatic correspondent Michael Crowley. Admiral, what alternatives are there to the Rafah invasion? What could the military be suggesting in terms of a more targeted approach rather than an all-out ground invasion, which is what the U.S. says would lead to too many civilian casualties?
This is under immediate discussion between very senior levels of the Israeli Defense Forces and the U.S. military. These talks were put on hold during a spat last week. Now they're back in virtual format. And I think the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the U.S. Secretary of Defense are going to lay out some fairly specific suggestions to our Israeli partners. It would include, number one, before you undertake a massive ground assault, you have got to move 1 million people out of Rafah. That's militarily unbelievably difficult, will take weeks, if not months, but you have to get these civilians out of the line of fire. That's going to be very hard. Short of that, you use very targeted approaches, special forces. You're going after only 4 battalions of Hamas right now. You can try and do that without the kind of aerial bombardment. Use your drones wisely, use your unmanned wisely, get your special forces out in front, get your engineers out in front. But I don't want to underestimate how difficult this is going to be for the Israelis. Close with this. For them to launch a massive knock down the walls, bombs dropping assault with 1 million civilians, unacceptable globally. I hope they don't do it.
But at the same time, let me just ask you a follow-up question. The U.S. has just approved another munitions agreement. Well, it was a prior agreement, but more bombs, more, bunker buster bombs, 2,000-pound bombs, 500-pound bombs. So they are resupplying Israel with weapons at the very moment that they are in disagreement with Israel's ways of pursuing the war, including not opening the Erez crossing in the north and not getting more land crossings open to get more aid in so that we wouldn't have to be building that pier, which is arguably a sitting target, for terrorists. So, Admiral, people are asking, certainly Senator Van Hollen was asking over the weekend, how does this make sense, politically or militarily?
Yeah, these are exactly the right questions to be asking, and the administration has taken a very, shall we say, calibrated approach to trying to put pressure on the Israelis to reduce the collateral damage. And so far, it has overall reduced it, but not sufficiently. And I think the next step, if Benjamin Netanyahu does follow through with a massive ground assault, I think the U.S. is going to be forced to stop sending any kind of offensive weapon. So watch that space, depending on what the Israelis decide to do.
Michael, what's your read on this? Is this the wrong time for the U.S. to be authorizing these weapons? And at the same time that we've seen these big protests, a majority of Israelis want Rafah to be invaded and want Hamas to be rooted out. So there's a kind of a split screen here in terms of the Israeli political climate.
Yeah, so, on the first question, Andrea, I think for President Biden, it's not yet the right time to cut off weapons. It does seem as though going guns blazing into Rafah, particularly without a plan to really protect civilians, which, by the way, a lot of U.S. officials don't think is plausible. They don't really think you could execute a plan like that it's just too many people to move to safety. But we'll see what the Israelis come up with. So Biden's not ready to do it in advance, but I think if the Israelis go in, that is possibly going to be a turning point, although we've said that before in this conflict. The president is obviously very reluctant. On Israeli politics, you make a good point about what the majority of Israelis want, because there is a lot of discussion in this country about Bibi Netanyahu and his right-wing coalition. We all know that Senator Schumer went to the Senate floor and gave a speech saying essentially that Bibi has to go. The problem the U.S. has is that Netanyahu, to a significant degree, reflects real public opinion in Israel. He's not an outlier who, I mean, yes, he cobbled together an unlikely coalition that requires right-wing support, but his views are not wildly out of line with those of Israeli society. There are a lot of dissenting Israelis who don't like a lot of his policies, particularly some of his domestic policies. But when it comes to the war in Gaza, I'm not sure you would see a sea change. When it comes to the Palestinians generally, a two-state solution, I'm not sure that you would have a completely different outcome if Netanyahu was out. And that's a problem for President Biden.
Well, in fact, Netanyahu seems to be focusing on the two-state solution, which really is raw with the Israelis who suffer on October 7th. And the majority of them, I would, at least from what our reporting is, are not in favor of a two-state solution. That's still a minority point of view. So there's one other thing about the Al Jazeera based in Qatar. I mean, that is so strange because we know that Netanyahu gave the go-ahead to Qatar to keep paying money to Hamas in Gaza because he thought that the Israeli policy was to support the Qatari payments that were keeping Hamas both in Doha, some of the leaders, the political leaders, and in Gaza as the governing organization, because they thought that that was keeping them contained. So for them to now go against, the Qatari-sponsored based Al Jazeera, it just seems to be very strange, Michael.
Well, Andrea, everything changed after October 7th. So you're absolutely right. Netanyahu thought that Hamas was a problem that was a lid on that problem, that it could be managed, that Hamas was terrible. Hamas was an enemy of the state of Israel, but they were not an existential threat. They could be kept quiet. And if Qatar was sending money into Gaza, it was keeping the people basically fed and housed, keeping Gaza running, and Netanyahu didn't have to worry about it. After October 7th, everything changes. And the Israelis at this point see Al Jazeera as essentially, this is how the Israelis see it, Hamas propaganda. It only broadcasts about suffering in Gaza. It doesn't talk about the October 7th attacks. It has no sympathy for Israel. So to the Israelis, Al Jazeera is essentially providing support to the enemy. So again, everything has changed after October 7th. And, I'm not surprised to see this, honestly.
And of course, Qatar is the go-between negotiating for the hostage releases, which the majority of Israelis do want the hostages to be released.
And Qatar also has the largest U.S. military base in the region in Doha. Very deep pipe. Importantly.
James Stavridis, Admiral, thank you very much. Michael Crowley, thanks to you.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.